Welcome to Table Talk, a place for honest conversations and getting to meet friends. I'm Betsy Thompson, and I'm here with one of my very dear friends, Alan Adams. Thank you for coming to hang out today.
No, it's a blessing to me. Yeah.
It is going to be so fun getting to hang out with you. And you are, to me, a sweet friend, but also kind of second father because your daughter Crystal is one of my very best friends. And so just so thankful to get to be a part of your family's life. Y'all are just an amazing group of people. Crystal, is one of my favorites. Yeah. And so I know she's yours, but she's one of my very favorites. And so so glad that we get to hang out today.
Yeah, we got a lot of great pictures of all of y'all hanging out over at the house. So
yes.
It's good.
Yeah. Love those people. So the reason I asked Alan to come on Table Talk today is we're going to kind of start a little series about Connect Groups, which is our small group model here at Sagemont, our Sunday school model here at Sagemont. They meet on Sunday mornings, 8 o'clock, 9:30, 11:15. We've got tons to choose from. And if you've been here at Sagemont with us for any amount of time, especially in the last couple of months, you are hearing from the stage regularly every single Sunday, hey, if you're in worship, your next step is to get plugged into a Connect group. And I wanted us to spend time this summer talking about, okay, what is a Connect group? But then also why? Why should I spend my Sunday, make my Sunday longer at church to be a part of a Connect group? And the first person I thought about to come and kick this off was Alan, because you are a Connect Group Director.
Correct.
Of Soul Support, which is one of our Connect Groups here at Sagemont. You are the longest running director at Sagemont Church. How long have you been a director of a group?
This September will be 34 years.
34 years, y'all. I love it. And consistently, like you've been doing this.
Yeah. We took over a existing class that had been a kind of a booming class, but the director's parents were in bad health and making a lot of trips to Louisiana, and so they just slowly stopped being involved. And then they had a good outreach group, but same thing, they started doing family and had a great class, just had kind of dwindled down to a real small group. And I was asked, Debbie and I were asked to take over the class, and so we blindly went in and then, with faith and took it over, and we've been there ever since. It was a young adult class, and we still like to say we think it's a young adult class, although
y'all could get away with it, maybe.
So we are at the other extreme of the segment of that.
Yeah.
But,
one thing we were kind of laughing about beforehand is the kind of evolution of the name of these groups. So talk through, what are all the different names you remember?
Well, we still caught in our group, all of us will still go back to Sunday school. Sunday school. And so that's just ingrained in our minds, Sunday
absolutely.
School. And so we'll say that. But I don't know that I can remember all the.
It used to be like letters and numbers, right?
Well, yeah. Well, it still is. I mean, we still have those. Like we are MA3 L now. So MA3 was married, adult. I think 3 was like the segment of 1 to whatever, where you were at in it, and EM or L was early, middle, or late.
Okay.
So theoretically we are MA3L now. Okay. So married adult, and I just don't know what the 3 is.
Okay.
And at the late hour. But I think the first deals we went to Connect Group, and it took a long time to get used to saying Connect Group.
Was it iConnect?
iConnect.
iConnect. That was the first big switch.
Yep. Small I, capital C.
Yes.
And
it's when Apple came out and all the
spell check doesn't like small. No. Small I, capital C. But iConnect and then we went to Connect Group and then just Connect. From that aspect of it. So, but we still, in our lingo, we'll call it Sunday school. And
I think it's one of those because you look at different churches, they all have basically, not all, but some form of Sunday school or small group or something, but there's a million different names for it. Right. And so there is kind of that consistency of, hey, this is what we call it here, but this is really what it is.
And I understand it, the concept of getting people to connect, but I think, back when we started it, and it was called Sunday school. That might be what it called, but the key to success then was figuring a way to connect.
Yes.
So the method has never changed. It's like the Word of God. The Word of God never changes, but sometimes the method that you use to get it out. And I think that's the thing with Sunday school classes is that the method that you call it changes to attract different people.
Right.
But the way to be successful, the map of doing it is still very basic and very the same the way you grow a good class.
So y'all have been the directors for 34 years, but you also have a lot of people in your group that have been with y'all all of those 34 years.
We've got one of the things I probably started 25 years ago is to involve people in it. It's the old joke that everybody's heard about the man that gets up and says, I don't want to go to church today. And his wife says, no, you've got to go to church. I don't want to go to church today. And, and she says, you have to. He goes, tell me why I have to. She goes, because you're the pastor. Well, it's the same thing. If you get people involved, it takes away the excuses of doing. And sometimes the times that I don't want to go the most is really the devil, because that's the times when I make myself do it is that God blesses me the most, or it's the missed opportunity that I had that I never would have had if I wasn't disciplined or committed or I had an area of service. Right. So I came up with the deal, everybody in minister, probably like 25 years ago. And I took a board and put it on the wall, and anything I could think of, I would call it a director of this, director of, water or donuts or whatever, and to get anybody involved and do it. And so, for instance, in our class right now, I used to, when I was working, manage a pretty large organization, but I've got a large organization in my Connect group. I've got over 35 people that have an area of responsibility in doing something and having to be there every single morning. And so having people involved in that makes a big difference in having those people there all the time.
They have ownership.
Yep. So back to your original question, we have one person, it was a couple, but her husband passed away about a year ago. We have one person that is a original member. We've got, within a year of that, we've got about 16 more that joined within that. And if I add a couple years to that, I can probably add another 10 of people that are still there from that length of time.
Yeah. And y'all have had different teachers over the years that would come in and teach, right?
Well, so when I talked at the beginning when we took over the class, that was a large class, but they had dwindled down to 16 people attending. And they had 3 classes. They had the old typical, they had a couples class, a men's class, and ladies class.
Okay.
So the leadership is 6 people. So we actually had 10 people attending the class.
Yeah.
And they had 3 classes. I'm going, okay, so you got like 3 people in each room?
Right.
Tell me how that's exciting to come into if I'm a visitor,
Right.
And so I reduced it down to one. I interviewed all 3 of them. I reduced down to one teacher. We made it one class so that we could start getting people seeing each other and start building, connections and so forth. So a gentleman named Steve Agner, Steve and Brenda Agner, a real great man of God, and can still to this day write me notes that God speaks to me, encourages me to this day.
That's awesome.
And so he was my teacher for his first 12 years, and then they moved up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I still talk to him frequently and so forth. But I have to talk about Steve a minute. Steve was a real tall, thin individual, and extremely quiet and shy.
Oh.
And you go, that doesn't make for a great teacher. But he was like another person when he started teaching. He knew the Bible, and he was so great at doing it. And his and my personality would just match great.
Yeah.
And so I would do stuff with him and his just dry sense of humor, and me just doing crazy stuff that would just,
Yeah.
It created a lot of laughter and camaraderie in the class, and it worked well. So
Yeah.
But so he was for 12 years.
Okay.
And when he left, then I decided I'm going to bring in a staff member, and so I started bringing in staff members, and I would have the director of the iConnect group, BR. So I started doing like that, and then it got up to where I really needed two individuals to do it because one would be out and
Sure.
and so forth. So I started getting a staff member and then someone else, and then we actually have three teachers teaching in our class now. So we got Denny Autry, who's been there for over 20 years, has been teaching it.
Okay.
And he was the dean of Southwestern Theological Seminary, of course, on staff here at Sagemont. Charles Savell was a Old Testament professor at Southwestern Theological Seminary. So he is in there, and kind of the same thing with Charles. Denny, of course, is dynamic and so forth, but my son-in-law, Zach Nicholson, was a teacher for ours for a while.
Yeah.
And then whenever he got into more responsibilities, he had to stop doing that. He recommended Charles Savell, and so Charles was a professor at the time. And Charles first came in, and Charles would kill me when he sees this fellow, but he would expect it. He first came in, and he was used to teaching seminary students. Right. And so it was just straight like that, And the first time he came and teaching, we were all just going, just so far over our heads, And so I got Charles after, and I told him I think it would work out to him. And I said, but you got to remember, we're not a seminary class. You have to loosen up, And so next time he said, and now he's got to, so he's been teaching in there for
a long time,
10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And now he's like, I have to go to him the other way. Okay, remember you are a professor, and so it got, but he's phenomenal. And then Emery Gadd is a teacher, and Emery's been in there for a long period of time.
Yeah, I had Charles come on Table Talk because working with him just as a teacher in Connect groups and getting to know him through that, I was like, he's this professor. Yeah. And then I heard him speak or teach one time, and maybe Wednesday in the Word or something, and he just flippantly said 2 or 3 things about his life. Yeah. And I was like, what?
He is so great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really neat to hear his story because he is one of those that his personality, you wouldn't guess it until you get to know him and get to talk to him. It's great.
He's in Israel on a dig right now. So I will say this, and I'll challenge anybody that sees Charles, a thing you would never expect out of a seminary professor. He knows every song of every kind. I don't care if it's rock and roll, if it's country and western, if it's gospel. If you play a tune, he can tell you the song, the person that sang it, and pretty close to the year it was out. I mean, it's just...
Poor Charles, everybody's going to be walking up to him singing.
Good. I'm hoping it works. As a matter of fact, I want you to do that. I want you to drive him crazy, yeah. But he is... if you ever do a trivia game and you've got music, that's the guy you want to have
him
on your
team.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. Well, one of the things I think that is neat is I think so often people think the driving force of Connect groups is the teacher. And sometimes it is for sure. But I think that connecting piece so often is the thing that keeps people. Yeah. And y'all are such a great example of years of people staying through different teachers because of the connecting they did. And in Soul Support, you were a huge driving force of figuring out how do we get everyone to connect. And your personality, you did a lot of just silly things to make people laugh. One of the things, I've heard you tell the story, and I don't exactly remember the whole thing, but this was, way back. You brought a door into class?
Well, I didn't actually bring a door. I utilized a door.
Okay, so something with a door.
So I will answer that. Let me kind of lead up to where that came from.
Yeah.
Is that I accepted Jesus as my Savior at Vacation Bible School like around the first grade or so forth. And that's where I know that's when I was saved and so forth. But I never was made to go to church or never mentored from that and so forth. And so I never really started to walk with the Lord, But I always had awareness and I always had a sense of, God was there and so forth. And so it wasn't until the birth of my daughter I started looking at my life, and I'm going, God's given me a responsibility for this child, and I, it's no longer my actions. I'm responsible for someone else's actions, and I don't want them to grow up the same way I is. So myself and my wife had been lifestyle we've been living, and so we started searching again and so forth, and started looking at churches. To make a long, very, very long story real short, ended up, through the birth of my daughter, getting back involved in church, making a profession of faith again, getting baptized again, and so forth. But that's when I really made Lord the Lord of my life, and not just the Savior. So, so as I started going to Sunday school, it was real uncomfortable. And so I remembered those days. And I remembered as, early 20s, mid-20s, how uncomfortable it was walking into a Sunday school room of everybody with suits on. And
yes.
Everybody proper, everybody hit what I called the holy payment. They've been arguing with their kids and hollering everything until they drove on the deal and they go,
you're supposed to behave.
You're supposed to be this person. I'm going, but that's not what a Christian life is about, and so when we started doing Connect Group, I wanted people to be comfortable coming into a class and see that, we're just like you. Yeah. We're no different. It's just that we serve the Lord,
Right.
And we have Christ in our life that makes a difference as a foundation of life. But we've got the same struggles you have. We had the same deal. So I wanted to break that stereotype. So the way I wanted to break it was with laughter.
Yeah.
And so when we started this class and we started doing it, I would start doing this stuff, and everybody would just sit out there and going, like that. And I'm going, well, this is clearly not working.
Yeah.
But I would just keep doing it. So, as it is, it would start getting people out of their shells and start doing that. So we had when we got to class, we were in up above what the old chapel was. And the rooms then had bifold doors, so you could open them up and have like 3 rooms, or you could put these bifold walls that would fold up against the wall and expand all the way out and then connect to the other one and divide them out. Well, then you had to have a door to get through to each one.
Right.
So we took over this class. Well, we got big and we opened into another area and we needed, and so we opened into the third area. Well, what ended up happening is we had all these bifold doors all folded up against the wall, and right where I had the podium, there was a door that when you fold this door, it would bid. So I'm going, it just looks stupid there. I said, so I got to do something with this door.
Yeah.
So I made up a series of 12 signs, and every week I'd put a different sign, I'd stick it on the door. And so like one, at that time we were on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
So I put on their elevator. And so I announced to the class, I go, hey, good news is, we've been able to get the pastor to put an elevator in our class. He knows we're the best class here at the he wants us to get to the service after class the fastest way. Right. So just, be sure and when you get done, don't go out this door and so forth. Yeah. Did that. I made it a telephone one time. So I got this was back when there was not cell phones,
right? You had
telephones with a cord and all that. So I put a wire inside and put a receiver on it with a real long cord. And of course, we didn't have technology like we're doing now and all this stuff. You had to do old school. So I went back and took a cassette tape and put a cassette deck, and I recorded a phone ringing 3 times.
Okay.
And I put 3 minutes of silence beforehand. So when it was time to go up, I started the tape in the back. So I walked up and I knew I had 3 minutes to talk before
the phone was going to ring.
The phone's going to ring. So, so I started, I'm giving my announcements and so forth, and all of a sudden phone rings. Of course, everybody goes like that. I look, and I had the deal in here, phone booths, but I didn't say anything about it.
Right.
On the deal. And so I finally turned around and looked, saw the phone booth. So I reached over and opened up the door and took it off. And of course, I did it on the third ring because I knew the tape would stop. So I picked it up, and it was my mom. I mean, and I go, Mom, I'm right in the middle of doing a class. And I go, I can't touch it. So I was just,
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think, yes, Mom, I have on clean underwear. Okay, I gotta go. And so, so I would do that. I did it. One time I made. I pushed this for 4 weeks, and so every week I tell them, I go, look, on Thanksgiving, God has blessed Debbie and I, and we're going to give turkeys to every couple that's here, for Thanksgiving.
Wow, yeah.
So I put a sign. So I announced it for 4 weeks, and on the fourth week I put a sign on the door that said, "Free turkeys, inquire within." And I had brought then a full-length mirror from the house, and it hung it on the inside. So if you went over and opened the door and you opened up,
it was you.
You saw yourself. So just stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you can get people laughing and to break down those walls and break down that seriousness and so forth, and it's kind of like singing. Singing prepares the heart for worship. Well, if you can get them to laugh and lose them, forget their problems, forget all this, and just kind of and say, that was funny and so forth. But then really and truly, okay, now we're going to study the Word of God and get in, God's going to speak to them, And even if the thing that they remember was a funny deal that gets them back next week, the funny's not what you're looking for.
Right.
The deal is to get them back and start learning God's Word and to get connections with other people outside of that time.
Yeah.
So.
And I also think it shows that you care about that group, that you were doing things outside of that time you were in the room to prepare to be with them.
Yeah.
Like that speaks to people when they're like, he took time to find a phone, to make a thing, to bring a mirror in. Like, I think that is so neat when we look at our directors and think they're putting time into these classes.
Here's the deal I would say to any director. If you're not putting the same amount of time in preparing for Sunday that your teacher is in bringing the Word of God, you're missing an opportunity.
I love that.
And you've got to put that same amount of time as a director, your deal is to, your piece is to get all the pieces working, and I want to get someone serving in all the things that are doing it, but my job is to get those people doing it, train them into ways to do it, and to get all those things working behind the scenes so that I can focus really on just looking out, sensing what God's wanting to do that day, and you never know. A lot of my stuff is just I might have prepared something, but God just kind of shows me something else just in doing stuff that okay, here's what it needs that morning. You've got to sense what it is. I will say the other thing as a director, it's important, and our pastor is so phenomenal at this now. You see our pastor everywhere. Yeah. Before the service, where you think, oh, isn't he back there praying or studying or so forth? No, what's he out? He's out interacting with people. He's in the balcony. He's in the parking lot. He's in all minutes before he's going to preach. Well, he did his homework beforehand and preparing to preach. Yep. So now he's just, well, the same thing. I try to every morning, as people are filing in, just going around and talking to people and so forth, and you sense of the ones that are down, the ones that are, and just talking to them, you'll get a lot of your ammunition that morning.
Yes, hearing stories and things you can talk about for sure.
And everyone knows that, oh my gosh, if you don't want everyone to know it, you better
don't tell Alan.
Don't tell Alan, because it's going to come out in the somehow or a picture that I took during the week of something, is going to make it onto the slideshow or something, so. But anyway, I love that so much. I think that's a key piece, is that you got to bring laughter, and people have to enjoy what they're doing. Do you, outside of church, anything you're passionate of, do you go to it out of commitment, or do you go to it out of something you enjoy doing? Well, you want people to come and enjoy the time they're here. And lots of times that's a process. When they're first visiting, that's not the way to do it. And eventually you get them to the point that they don't need that hand holding, or that crutch of laughter or so forth. They're there for the right reasons, but you got to get them from there to where they need to be.
That's right. And I love thinking about it because somebody might go, well, yeah, Alan, you can do that because you're retired and when you were doing all of this, you were working, you had young kids, and this was something that was a priority for you.
So my retirement is 2 years now.
Yeah.
And the first year and a half of that retirement was focused on my wife and her battle with cancer. So but the vast majority of the time, I had a full-time job.
Yep.
I was
a dad, a grandpa,
I was
doing all the things.
in a Fortune 100 company and a Fortune 500 company. Had tons of responsibility, and I was a deacon here.
Yep.
But it's about your priorities. And I've always said, God gives you enough time to do the things He wants you to accomplish.
I love that.
Is that just where you're putting your time at?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Another huge piece that y'all are really great at, that I think is a great why to be a part of a Connect group, is the way y'all support one another. And over 34 years, y'all have had things to celebrate. You've had things to come alongside when hard things happen. Talk a little bit just about you and how you have been on the giving end and the receiving end through all these years, and different people in the group, because that's one thing we tell people all the time about why it's so important to connect is God put us here with other people for fellowship and to have people that will support us. And so often it's when we're in the middle of needing it that we notice we don't have it. And so it's being purposeful before you're in that situation to be someone that's giving support, because every single one of it, the Bible tells us we're going to have highs and we're going to have lows. And so building those relationships, so when we do go through valleys, there are people, those relationships are already built. Talk just about what the importance of that has been.
Well, I'll go back to the original thing. Excuse me. The original thing we talked about. You can never steer away from saying that the primary reason for a Connect group or Bible study is the study of God's Word.
Absolutely.
Unequivocally, that's got to be the number one priority. And if you don't have good teaching, you're not going to draw people. But you're not going to keep people if that's all you've got is good teaching. So the second thing is, I think, is that you've got to have community in it. And they got to know that you care.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we made a commitment to do in the very beginning is to do what we call small groups. And so that's where we have a group leader over 5 couples, or if there's singles or widows or widowers, and then we have that over those 5 5 widows or whatever. Whatever. And so. Or 5 singles, or so we have those groups. We have that, and what I said is that, numbers is not what we're about. What we're about is meeting the needs of people, and we will always have small groups. And most people think of small groups as, we're going out studying. Now I'm talking about small groups of ministry.
Yeah.
So you ask 2 people or a couple or a single person to volunteer to minister to 5 people. And so it's their job to look for those 5 people or 5 couples every Sunday morning. And they're not there, not to make them feel guilty or not to harass them, but just reach out and just, hey, notice you weren't there.
Yeah, check on them.
Just want to make sure everything's okay. And and also, if there's a need, if someone's sick or they're in the hospital, then that group, gets a meal to them and minister to them. And if it becomes too much for that group or something, then we move it to our leadership group, which we've got a big leadership group. Then we'll step in and do that. And then also to get the chain of communication. So there's no way, we've got 130 people on our row, and we average about 90 people on a Sunday morning. There's no way I can meet the need of every person. But if you have all those people doing it, they let me know. I need to know about all of them, and I need to get involved when I can. And so there's been several times that we've got up and we got to the point of, over the 34 years, got to the point of, over 50 people, and God didn't provide the need. And so we had to just take the size of the class down.
Yeah.
And there's ways you can bring the size of the class back down, and we would do it, and then just pray, God, when you provide the people, then we'll provide to do it. Until we finally hit that point that God provided the people, and we started then going to where we have no barrier of size now, because God provides people, and also people are doing things in there.
Yeah.
So back when we started the class, I had to do everything. I had to greet people at the door.
Right.
I had to go to, I had to do all that aspect of it. But slowly you get other people to do that, and now they're doing it. And so then they learn those things. So I would say, although we've got as good a teaching as any class in this church, I would say there's none better at ministering than what we are. And it's because we kept that core value of a small group.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, we're the only big class that is able to maintain small groups.
Yeah.
But I think that's our secret sauce.
Yeah.
And is doing that. And so we're not perfect.
Sure.
We miss somebody sometimes, and we do it. But it's not because we don't try. It's a priority of us, and we make sure we do stuff. I've got the McCormick, Sheila and Blake, and Sheila especially is just phenomenal at being able to minister people and keep. And it's a lot to keep track of all the folks we've got in our class. So that's her responsibility is to manage her and Blake's responsibility to manage the group leaders and to do them. And so constantly calling, constantly putting in touch, constantly knowing.
Right.
And if there's anything I hear more in our class, it's whenever there's a need and people come back and they go, I cannot believe how many people in this class. And that's, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but that's when you've got them for life.
Yeah.
And that's why people stay in our class forever.
Absolutely.
And I'll try not to get emotional, but one thing that we've done at our Christmas social, there'll be times that we have a big Christmas social and we do all the white elephant gifts and have all the fun. But there's times in our class where there's just a lot of needs and hurts. And, and I pray, it doesn't feel right we're having fun and all the people that are out doing it. So we've rented Greyhound buses, and we've needed as many as 2 sometimes to do it. And we've said, okay, we've called ahead and at Christmas time, and we come up to church and have a meal, but then we all get in on the bus and we all go and we go to the neighbors of them and we sing Christmas carols at them. And the impact that made to, here's what I'll tell you, most to people has been unbelievable. All the way to this last Christmas. It's the first one, 34 years, Debbie and I couldn't make the Christmas social.
Right.
And because she was close to the end at that time. And here we had an entire class that got in cars, ate at the church, came over to their house, got behind their house, and someone called me and let me know it was happening, which was good.
Yeah.
I was able to get Debbie out of bed and put her in a recliner and look out the back windows and hear this herd of people came in our backyard and started singing Christmas carols. And the biggest smile I ever saw out of Debbie's, and that was really the last day that she was really, knew what was going on from that standpoint. And, so there we spent all these years doing that, and lo and behold, it came back to us, and
absolutely.
I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier to do that to others than it is to receive it, by the way.
Right.
It's very different, but it let me see the difference that it makes in doing that. And I think that's what our class is key about doing is making sure no one falls through the cracks, and we don't miss that opportunity, and that's where it becomes family. People always talk about Sagemont. Oh, it's such a big church, and if you're looking for relationships, you're not going to find it in the church. I mean, in the big aspect of it.
Yeah.
But we're so blessed that we've got all the resources, things to do in a big church. But where you get personal and down to knowing someone is in the connect groups.
Absolutely. That's
where you build relationships. That's where you build it. That now you're not just seeing someone on Sunday morning, but you're having over their house on Tuesday and having over on Wednesday, or you're going out on vacation with them and going. Right. And that's where you build community. And that's that piece back to the joke I made in the very beginning about the pastor and coming.
Yeah.
That's what gets you up every Sunday morning and gets you here. And that's when God can minister to you either through our services of a pastor that is so gifted at meeting our needs of that. And then in the day-to-day relationships where there's a need, you can open up your heart and be transparent and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's a safe place to be vulnerable because you're going to be that, and everybody's going to be there for you, And I think that's been the success of our classes, that one thing.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I love even watching y'all's class as y'all have gone through the years. I think there's so many testaments to why y'all's class is so successful. But it is one of those I've seen in the last few years is people in your group that have had a spouse pass away and they don't go find a new class. They're like, these are my people, this is my community, and the class has done such a good job of going, absolutely, you're with us. My piece has always been that we're open to everybody. So we're primarily a couples class, and that's what we're going to build our structure at and so forth. But we've always said we want to make anybody feel comfortable in here. And so we've always been that way, and we found that as we do that, and God brings those people to us, and then we go, we need a group leader for that. Right.
And I mean, we didn't used to have a group leader for single individuals. We didn't used to have one for widowers. We didn't used to have one for widows.
Right.
Now we have a group leader just for those, and that's exactly what you said is what I'm saying is that we're at that piece now to where a lot of us have been in that class a long time, like me, have lost their spouse, and that's family.
Right.
And we're not going to go to a singles group.
Right.
This is the people that we raised our kids with. This is people that we've brought needs to and suffered with and celebrated with and went on vacations with. Why would you not continue to love them? And so forth. And so I think we started seeing that 3 or 4 years ago, and we started doing that. And lo and behold, who would know that I would would all of a sudden be a part of that. So I'm a widower now, but I'm still feel led to, I prayed about it. I went to my leadership and said, if y'all think I'm no longer qualified to do this, then I'll happily step down, but I still want to be a part of the class. And they all me said, no way. And so I still feel called to be the leader of that group, because that's what God's equipped me to do, But we found ourselves in a different piece, and so we're ministering to different groups, and God is blessing our class in doing that, and people are comfortable coming to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Y'all done such a great job, and I think it's so important for those people that are in their late 20s and early 30s. It is worth your time on a Sunday morning to come to worship and a connect group. Yes, I know it's a long morning. It's a long time for your kids to be in kids ministry or whatever. And you're like, oh, but their naps schedule gets thrown off, or when we eat lunch gets thrown off. Y'all, hear me further along than you and Alan even further along than me say, it is worth it. It is one of the best, when you look back, it's one of the best things that you're going to do is say, on Sundays, we're going to go to worship and we're going to be a part of a connect group.
So remember, we started this out as a young adult class. So my kids when we started this class, were probably, I'm going to say, 6, 7, 4 and 8, So, I mean, we went through the period that our number one deal was birth of kids, so, what we
Baby showers
and stuff like that.
Yes.
And so that was the deal. And then,
Right.
And then we moved to the piece of everybody's in sports and so forth. And let me tell you, we had just the same type of needs then, that I'm the only person in the family that's going through this still of my kid in diapers at 5 years old, or something like that.
Yeah, hard things.
But you get in a group and you find out I'm not the only one going through this.
That's right.
And then boom, a connection happens,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a safe place to be vulnerable to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. We needed it every step of the way.
Yep.
We needed it when our kids got in school. We needed it when they were doing sports or in choir or in
when you transition to empty nester, when you transition to grandparents. Yes.
Exactly right. And then the empty nester piece, and what do we do with our time now?
Right.
And the kids in college, and then grandkids, and then now spouses passing away.
Right.
That's been the safe place for us.
Yeah.
And I think about it daily. If we hadn't been serving, starting 35, 40 years ago, started serving and so forth. That's that's our family. Yeah. We've got, obviously our, my kids and grandkids. But that's the family that has seen us go through everything. And I can't imagine starting experiencing issues at my age now and not having someone that is walking through that with me, I can't imagine it.
Right.
I can't imagine what I've gone through this year.
Right.
And not having the support base, that's been there for me and lifted me up and
absolutely.
And prayed for me and continues to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, it's what a church is. Mm-hmm. What's that old deal? I can't even do it. When you're a kid and to do all the steeple and all that, and you turn around and here's
where are all the people? They're not there, but then you do this.
Then you do this, and here's all the people.
Yeah.
It's no different. Yeah. It hasn't changed, in the 50 years I've been doing it. It hasn't changed. It's still the same thing it takes to make it work. It's about getting in a group, allow yourself to push away what the world's telling you to do. Yeah. Allow yourself to get in a group of like-minded people and be vulnerable.
Yep.
And are there going to be some people who take advantage of that? Yes. We're all humans, we're all people, but
we could talk just as long as we have about how good they are about the hard things.
Exactly right.
Because it's people. It's all the people, which are people that love Jesus, but we're still sinners. And so you're going to have the hard. Don't let that keep you from pushing through for the good.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for all you do at Sagemont. We greatly appreciate you. I love that you are so willing to share your wisdom. And y'all, if you're watching and you're a director of a Connect group and maybe you've been a director 2 or 3 years, take Alan to lunch and ask him, tell me, what are the things? Y'all, he has so much wisdom. He's done it for a long time and done it well for a really long time. If you are looking for a Connect group, Soul Support is a great group to jump into, but there are tons of others that are super important and really good groups that you can jump into. One thing you have to do is just exactly what he just said. You have to walk in and be vulnerable. If you walk in and sit in the room and don't talk to anybody and don't go to any of the outside of Sunday morning activities or participate at all, you're going to get in. You're going to get out what you put in.
That's exactly right.
You're going to get out what you put in. Walk in with the intention of, I want to be a part of this group. I'm going to put in for this group, and it will change.
I think that's key. And what I will say, I know I as a director, and I believe every director feels the same thing. Don't be afraid to say, hey, here's what I need. If you were to come to my class and as great as classes we are, we're not for everybody. If we were, there wouldn't be all the other classes,
right.
And but if my class is not the one that meets your needs, come to me and say, hey, look, I'm trying to hurt your feelings and everything. You got a great class, but it doesn't meet my needs. Here's what I need. I'll help you find one. And I believe any director of a class here will do exactly the same thing. We don't care about the numbers. What our role is to meet the needs and to grow community and that aspect of it. And so we want you where God wants you to be at, where you feel you're comfortable, can plug in and become a part of, not just a sitting on the premises, but getting involved
That's right.
in and do. And what you said is so key. Now, if you come to my class and you're an outgoing person, I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable pretty quick, because I'm gonna pull it out of you. I'm gonna get you to talk and so forth. I won't embarrass you by any means.
Yeah.
But if you're just sitting back there and not making the effort to do it, not just me. Our class will come to you, and we'll make you feel welcome and so forth. But it's key. It can't just be. You have to be able to put forth the effort and investment in to get that return back.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to willing to give it to.
Yeah,
So.
it's important. Thank you for all you do at Sagemont.
It's a blessing.
Love you bunches and appreciate you coming on today. Thanks for hanging out and just sharing, y'all, the why connect groups. And over the next few weeks, you're going to get to hear from lots of different directors and teachers. So I hope you'll come back as we talk about connect groups. And more importantly, go try some out. The beauty of a connect group, you don't have to register ahead of time. Once you go to one, you're not locked into that one forever. Get a list, go to the website, look at the different groups and say, hey, we're going to try this one this Sunday. Okay, we want to try this one next Sunday. And just start there. Start with trying. It's a beautiful way that our connect groups are set up, is that you can just pop in and try one out. And so make that your next step to try out a connect group. And then be purposeful to get involved and get plugged in to a connect group. So Alan, thanks so much for being here. Y'all, thanks for hanging out on Table Talk. We will see you next time.